if the mayor were to step down, whoever's the chairperson would become acting mayor. And that's happened throughout history, let's say in the last half century, when Mayor Bob Martinez won the election to become governor. He had to resign, and the chairperson, Sandy Freeman, who was a city council member, became acting mayor and was the first woman mayor. Then she ran, and she served 2 full terms. In the 1970s, Mayor Greco was finishing his 2nd term. He resigned to go into the private sector, so that chairperson became acting mayor, died within a few months. The successor, the next city council chairperson, took over that position. So it was like the year of 4 mayors, because then they had an election. They elected Mayor Bill Poe.
Welcome to Talk to Your Government. I'm your host, Becky Yettaw, and today we're honored to have Councilman Guido Maniscalco with us. Councilman Maniscalco has deep roots in Tampa. He was born and raised here as the son of Cuban and Italian immigrants. Guido graduated from Tampa Catholic High School, Hillsborough Community College, and USF. Currently serving as the chairman of the Tampa City Council, he's also active on several key boards, including the Tampa Sports Authority and the Transportation Planning Organization. His leadership has helped shape Tampa's future, and we're excited to hear more about his vision. Welcome, Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you so much. Yep, thanks for inviting me.
I love your name. Guido is the best name ever. Every time I say it, it just makes me happy.
Well, I'm named after my grandfather, who today is actually his birthday, would have been his birthday, so he'd be 104 years old. And I wasn't supposed to be named Guido. My mother, my parents wanted, other options, but he passed away while my mom was pregnant with me. So in order to honor his legacy, my grandmother was very insistent on naming me Guido, which is not a very common name, in modern times. But so that's something different. But there are not too many Guidos in Tampa, so hopefully they don't confuse me with other people. And
it definitely sticks in your mind. And when you were running for city council, I remember seeing the posters everywhere, and I was like, oh, that's great. It's something you can grab onto. You're not a Bill or a John or a Joe or
something different, something more memorable, hopefully, in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. And you're very interested in Tampa history, isn't that right?
Yes.
Do you want to tell me about that?
So I've always loved history in general. Some of my favorite classes in school growing up would be world history, American history, and to build upon that, Tampa history is exciting, because people think, the United States, major cities would be, New York, Los Angeles, Miami, whatever they be, but Tampa has so many wonderful stories. So many people have come through here throughout history or had an impact, and it's interesting. It could be stories, it could be old buildings, but there's always something new to learn, and I've always just been fascinated with it, and it's really more like a hobby, but again, it's part of our daily lives. You drive by places or you live in neighborhoods that you wouldn't think, and then you learn something new and exciting, historically about that certain place or person or name or last name, and it's just interesting. It makes Tampa more fun, I think.
But as the son of Cuban and Italian immigrants, your pedigree is like almost Tampa in itself, don't you think?
I guess you could say it is, but fast forward, 80 years, because my mom didn't leave Cuba and come here until 1961, and then my dad came here from Sicily, off the coast of Italy in 1981. But if you look at the Tampa immigrant story, a lot of people will tell you, now it's grandparents, great-grandparents, or even multiple generations further, where they'll say they immigrated from, my dad is from a town in Sicily that many people immigrated from. My mother coming from Cuba, people have immigrated from, or from Spain, because my roots really go back to Spain, by way of great-grandparents, to Asturias, which is in northern Spain. The reason I say that is because if you go to Ybor City, you have the Italian club, you have the Centro Asturiano, you've had the Cuban club, so it ties into, my family's immigration story, fast forward years, but the foundation of Ybor City and Tampa. So it is the Tampa story with a modern twist.
Yeah, it sort of reflects the old history, but it's not really that old, because 1960s, 1980s aren't seriously old.
It was the other day. It's not 1890.
Yeah.
Ybor City was founded in 1886, and the city of Tampa as the city of Tampa as it is today, 1887. It goes back further, but if you look at the founding date, July 15th, 1887, those are the really like the early pioneers, even though it goes a little bit, deeper than that. So,
how do you think that those roots inform your city council work?
I guess it gives me a deeper appreciation. Mm-hmm. You read a little bit of my biography. I'm born, raised, and educated here. I made it a point to not go away for college. A lot of my friends did, but I'm like, I can go to University of Tampa. I was there for a year. I transferred to HCC at the Ybor campus or the Dale Mabry campus, and then finished there, and then USF, and I thought, like, what could I do next? But I always wanted to stay local, and I went to the USF campus right by here on Fowler, the main campus.
Yeah.
But I'm proud to tell people I'm born, raised, and educated. When I graduated USF, quite a few of my friends said, Tampa doesn't have what I'm looking for. And this is at the beginning of the Great Recession, 2008. I mean, financially, there was a major crisis all over. Mm. A lot of those people left that had moved here to go to school, and none have come back. Mm-hmm. But at least one person, one who I'm very close to, he visits Tampa. He was here a month ago, and he goes, every time he visits, he always says, I regret leaving. And I'm like, yeah, you should. I told you should have stayed, and because Tampa's really flourished and grown and changed in the last, 15, 20 years, but he sees the excitement. And, other friends are like, oh, we've already moved back, but it's a different Tampa, and it's a much more exciting Tampa than when they came down here for school years ago. So it's,
What do you think has changed? What's different about Tampa now than it was in 2008?
A lot of new people have moved here. We've seen the housing boom and the housing crisis. I mean, it's expensive all over the city. It wasn't always like that. We see new things that have been built that didn't exist. If you would have asked me in 2002, what are we going to do? We'd hang out at the mall. We might go to Ybor City. In different capacities. It could be, you're 18, you're 21, you want to go to the clubs, you want to, now it's, what do you want to do? Well, there's Armature Works, then there's Ybor City, and then there's Midtown, and then there's International Plaza, and then, the airport is so convenient. Because I've done it, and friends of mine have done it. Like, we find a cheap flight to go somewhere, and we've made day trips out of it. I mean, it's things that I wouldn't have imagined back then to there's always something new to learn. I mean, and then if you really explore Tampa, there's so many beautiful parks. If you like history, there's history lessons all over the place. And the culinary scene, the restaurants, it used to be, go somewhere nice. It's the Columbia, it's Burns. Now it's like, you don't know where to begin.
So
if you like
choices.
Asian cuisine, there's plenty. If you like Italian food, there's plenty. If you like Spanish food, there's plenty. It's just, there's so many options. But I'm glad to see that Tampa is, it came into its own years ago, but now it's recognized on a greater scale. A lot of people will say, well, Miami, it's just overwhelming, it's too big. Orlando, it's tourism, but Tampa's a good balance, and I hope that we maintain that good balance where we have a great airport, we're close to the beaches, we have great neighborhoods, great parks, great schools. So I'm happy here. I don't know, there are many beautiful places in the world and in this country, but it's like, where would I go? It's, again, going back to like born, raised, and educated here, it's like, I'm glad I never left, because I could have gone away to school and come back, like many people do. But I'm glad that I was patient. I said, I know a lot of good things are coming, and they have been coming, and they're going to continue. So here I am, and I'm a very happy Tampeño, and
You say that with an accent. I love it.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
So you started in government really early, didn't you? Were you you had your eyes set on government?
So I first thought
early,
about
right?
public office when I was 16, back at the 2000 presidential election, and I guess that's what inspired me.
Yeah.
Growing up, I always wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a heart surgeon. That was the original goal. Then, in my teenage years, I'm like, I'd love to be an attorney, because I can be an attorney. I can get into government. I love history. I love how things work. How at the national level, it's one thing. The federal level, but I became interested as a teenager in local municipal government, because I met the mayor at the time, who was Mayor Dick Greco, who was one of the youngest council members years ago, and one of the youngest mayors years ago in the 60s, and then he came back in the 90s. And I saw the importance of, you know, the president can say or do, the governor can say or do, but what happens at the local level can impact you, you know, greatly. You know, your trash doesn't get picked up, you have streets flooded, you have potholes, whatever it is, those affect people immediately.
Yeah.
And I like to be close to the people. City Hall is downtown, you know, you might bump into people at the grocery store, at the coffee shop, but you're accessible, you know. Yes, you know, you will see your Congress member, you know, out in public when they're here, when they're not in Washington. You might see the governor when he visits on an official, that, you know what I'm saying? But like city council, just like school board members, they're in the community. So they have I think, a different pulse on what's going on because they're living it every day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have to live within the city, live within our districts if we're single member district representatives, but we're accessible. People can stop us. I mean, I get stopped at the grocery store. I get stopped at the coffee shop, whatever it is. And
people want to talk to you about something personal to them, or?
It could be a complaint or concern. It could be a compliment, but we're there. I mean, we're regular human beings, but I think some people view government as, you know, us versus them, and they're not accessible, whereas, you know, again, we're close to the people. You can park downtown, go into City Hall, there we are. You know, we allow public comment, we have public meetings, you know, every week, almost every week. And nothing. I like that. You know, in the good times and the bad times, because there is stress, the people are, you know, we're accessible to folks.
So the Tampa City Council, are all of the meetings public, or can people attend all of the meetings of this?
Yeah.
And I know it's on TV too, right?
It is. So you can watch it on TV. You can come down to City Hall Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. Come and speak. I mean, people can talk about really whatever.
Yeah.
It could be government, you know, it could be related to what's on the agenda that day, or it could be, I want my street paved. You know, we had a gentleman come yesterday complaining about, you know, potholes in streets and everything, and rightfully so, but he had, you know, he came downtown, parked, came in and said his piece, and I think we were responsive to him because, you know, we had the dialogue there. But I like that, you know, because I feel like we can be impactful. We can't do everything. We don't have all the answers, but, you know, we can bring positive change.
So you were the chairman of the Tampa City Council, is that correct? Are you still the chairman?
Yep.
And how did you get there, and what was that like? What's
we
it like
are selected by our colleagues. So somebody would nominate me, and then whoever gets 4 votes becomes the chairperson. The chairperson basically is the department head of City Council. You know, you get a lot more responsibility. You know, you might ride in a parade, you know, like the Gasparilla Parade. The chairperson of the City Council or the County Commission gets invited. You ride in the parade. The benefits are, you know, the benefits. It's, you know, you run the meetings. You have to maintain order. You have public comment. You have, you know, your colleagues on each side of you. Who's going to speak? You know, you try to keep things organized. What's interesting, though, how it works in the city of Tampa, and it's happened historically. If the mayor were to step down, whoever's the chairperson would become acting mayor, and that's happened throughout history. Let's say in the last half century, when Mayor Bob Martinez, won the election to become governor, he had to resign, and the chairperson, Sandy Freeman, who was a city council member, became acting mayor and was the first woman mayor. Then she ran, and she served 2 full terms. In the 1970s, Mayor Greco was finishing his 2nd term. He resigned to go into the private sector, so that chairperson became acting mayor, died within a few months. The successor, the next city council chairperson took over that position. So it was like the year of 4 mayors, because then they had an election, they elected Mayor Bill Poe. But it's interesting how the dynamic works. Just like, you know, president, vice president, the succession there, and the you know, line of command there. So
that's awesome. What's different about being mayor than being city council chairman?
Everybody looks at the mayor. You know, like the buck stops with the mayor kind of thing. So good and bad, whether the mayor has involvement in it or not, people are going to come to you and they're going to say, you know, crime is out of control, traffic is terrible. You know, you are the figurehead for the city. The mayor does have a lot of authority. They call it the strong mayor form of government. Whether it is or it's not, it's the mayor, for example, presents the budget to the city council, and the mayor organizes that budget, puts it together with the CFO and the finance folks, but then the city council can, by way of votes, can move money around, can, you know, strike certain things down. So it's the checks and balances system. You know, you have the president, you have the Congress, you have, you know, judicial, legislative, executive. Federal is different, but here there are checks and balances.
That's really wonderful. I'm glad to hear that that's true. So you're also on the board of some really important organizations like the Tampa Sports Authority, which is a big deal here, right? And Tampa Theater as well? So
I'm most recently on the Tampa Sports Authority. It'll likely be a year term because whoever is chairperson can appoint who's on that board. So, you know, I mean, I'm on it for now, but that, they oversee like the golf courses within the city. They oversee Raymond James. So the meetings are, you know, budget and facility related. Mm-hmm. You'll know when somebody is performing. So for example, Taylor Swift, you know, recently did 3 shows here. You know, you hear about it first and they do a big press conference and announcement. Those types of things generate a lot of money for the city.
Yes.
You know, the financial impact is big. The Bucks games, you know, you have soccer games, you have Monster Jam, you have so many events happening at that stadium, and all that, you know, we see it through the Sports Authority. I love the arts, so I've been on several arts boards. I was most recently on the Straz board and the Museum of Art. We rotated out of that, so another council member's there. I'm on the Tampa Theater board, the Arts Council of, you know, basically the Arts Council for the city of Tampa. And then the Transportation Planning Organization used to be known as the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization. It's a lot of things, but the most controversial is like the interstate widening and construction, interchange is being reworked and redone. So I've sat on that board the longest since 2015.
Because it's been a long, long process, right? That project of the interstate widening.
There was a lot of controversy in 2015 because it was called TBX. Mm-hmm. It was basically widening the interstate through Tampa, you know, to add toll lanes. And we received a lot of pushback and opposition from the neighborhoods, West Tampa, Seminole Heights, Tampa Heights,
yep.
Because it was the acquisition of right-of-way and more houses being demolished. And going back to why is history important, we need to look to the past when we make decisions for the future, because the interstate was very aggressive beginning in the 1950s, and it divided West Tampa, divided Ybor, divided Tampa Heights.
And we've never recovered in a lot of ways.
We've recovered some, but it's taken a half a century because
some neighborhoods just never recovered.
No, some haven't. Seminole Heights is a thriving neighborhood, but it's taken a long time.
Yeah.
Tampa Heights, same thing. Ybor City, yeah. It's taken a long time. West Tampa, it's taken a long time. Where it never should have happened to begin with.
You mean like we could have done it in a better way, or?
There was really no public input, you know. I mean, I've seen the front pages of the Tampa Tribune from like 1958, I think, and it says, you know, federal highway, you know, proposed for this. And you talk to the people that lived through it and they'll say, you know, the interstate took my house.
Yeah.
Basically, you know, the Department of Transportation, they buy your house for demolition, but you know, you look at neighborhoods now, and it's houses facing the interstate where they used to face other houses, yeah. And streets used to cut through, and more streets existed, streets that vanished, like, I think it's Wilson. So if you go to like Hillsborough and 275, there's that gap between mm-hmm. houses, the interstate, and more houses. That used to be Wilson Street. It doesn't exist anymore because now it's 275, or
paved.
Spring Street is another street. May not be interstate related, doesn't exist anymore. That's through downtown. So it's the erasing of history, but it's more so the damaging of neighborhoods. And the neighborhoods that were damaged, many were the Latin, Italian neighborhoods, the African American neighborhoods. I mean, I could go on and on. So the decisions that we make on that board today, I try to, and other board members try to be very careful and sensitive to the neighborhoods because they've suffered so much. You know, we don't want to repeat what happened yesterday and years ago, and especially when they're recovering, and people invest a lot in their neighborhoods. Businesses come in, people raise their families. I mean, so many positives of it. We want to make sure that you know, we don't keep tearing off the Band-Aid and reopening wounds.
I'm really glad that you're sensitive to that. That's really important. I'm glad that there's people that are looking out for let's not repeat the mistakes
yeah.
of the past. So what about light rail?
That's a tricky discussion. I mean, you have Brightline that's expanded to Orlando, and we're talking about, bringing it to Tampa.
Well, I remember when Brightline came to the Cafe Con Tampa group and spoke, and I was so excited that maybe we would get a rail from here to Orlando. That would be great.
It would be convenient. I mean, I-4 traffic isn't the easiest, and not everybody wants to drive a car. I mean, I drive a car everywhere. I have to. In my job, I'm a citywide representative, so you got to get from New Tampa to South of Gandy to West Tampa, but the United States really doesn't have that major rail network that Europe has, for example. Because in Europe, because I've used it many times, you don't need a car. You can use public transportation. You can connect to the train. You can go country hopping. You don't even need the airplane. Once you're there, it's so connected. Here, if you compare the maps of the United States and Europe, there it's very dense rail. Here it's, you can get to New York, you can get to California, but what about everything in between? Whereas Brightline would take you from Miami to Palm Beach to Orlando, to Tampa, and the I-4 corridor is so critical, it's so important. I know it's a major advertising corridor, it's a major transportation corridor, it's a major connector for, bringing in goods, because we have Port Tampa Bay. You want to get to the center of the state, and then for tourism. So a lot of people, Tampa's a fantastic airport, my favorite airport, but then you have MCO in Orlando, and there's a lot of direct flights from Europe there, South America. A lot of people go to Disney, and I don't want them to miss out on seeing Florida and going, we saw Disney.
But they never saw a beach, because they say it's close to the beach, but it isn't.
No, come to Tampa, go to Clearwater Beach. If you're going to be here, go to Pinellas, but go to Tampa. A lot of people go to Savannah, Georgia for the history. A lot of people go to New Orleans for the history, right? Come to Ybor City. People go to St. Augustine, one of the oldest parts of the United States, if not the oldest. You have so much in Tampa, and when people come to visit here, I always take them to the same places, It's, let's go see Ybor City. Let's go down Bayshore. Let's go through West Tampa. Let's go to Seminole Heights. And again, I had somebody tell me, goes, Seminole Heights is like a mini Brooklyn, because there's things that you can eat here that, you typically wouldn't find. But people's jaws always drop when they see Ybor City, and they go, wow. I'm like, it's a movie set.
Yeah.
Bricks, now they're re-bricking 7th Avenue, but you have brick buildings. You have all the history, the story. Take people to Tampa Theater. First time they go in, it's just like, wow. That's a magnificent movie palace.
It's beautiful.
If you take them to Burns, they look at the wine list if they're wine drinkers, and they're just blown away. If they go to the Columbia, wow, Tampa has so much to offer. Getting back to the transportation, if people are going to come to Orlando, which people do, it's a huge destination spot for tourists. Come to Tampa.
Yeah.
If they're gonna be here a week, enjoy Disney. But take a train over, because if they have a stop in Ybor City, they can hop off there, get on the streetcar, go downtown, and we're looking at expanding the streetcar to go further north. Should that happen, go to Armature Works, go into Tampa Heights, and they'll be able to see the cigar history, the foodie scene that we are, the beautiful buildings. I mean, there's just, you wouldn't get bored, I would stand behind, people would have a good time, even if it's for a day trip to come and see Tampa.
Absolutely, but I mean, I'm often in Orlando for work. A lot of people have to go to Orlando for work, or vice versa, from Orlando to Tampa. And if they had a rail system that they didn't have to drive in that traffic, I think that would be ideal. I think it would really increase the connection between the two cities.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, you go to Europe and you can do that. Take the train. It's 2 hours this way. It's, go see another city. Go see a cathedral. Go eat at this restaurant. I've done it. I've had friends do it. They're saying, hey, we're in Switzerland, but we're here. I go, well, it's an hour to go there. And they go, wow, that's awesome. So with Brightline, it takes, let's not count traffic, but let's say it takes an hour to get to Disney from here. Yeah. That's how much I average. An hour's quick to make a day trip to see other places, without having to rent a car, without having to get on an airplane. So
I would happily sit and not have to deal with traffic for an hour to get to Orlando.
You're relaxing. That's the thing. You're not driving.
Exactly.
Play on your phone, catch up on work, take a nap. But, at the same time, you have an opportunity to visit a new place. And I think it would be good for Tampa, from the tourist standpoint. And even folks that need to work in Orlando, say, I really don't want to drive today. Take a Brightline train and go where you need to go.
So we got some questions from the internet, from the out there in the world. This question's from Sarah. You've been a vocal advocate for the LGBTQ rights in Tampa. What progress do you think the city has made in fostering an inclusive environment, and what steps do you believe need to be taken to protect and promote the LGBTQ plus
So
community?
I want Tampa to be welcoming to everybody. I want people to feel safe here, to feel welcome here. I want Tampa to have a positive reputation that anybody that wishes to come and live here, it's an inclusive place. I know those are words that are used a lot, inclusivity and equality, but it's not just about that. It's about equity. It's about, at the end of the day, I want people to be happy. And I think it's just how I've been raised. My mom growing up in different times in the 60s and 70s and 80s, a lot of her friends were gay. And it wasn't a question of who they were her friends.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother instilled that in me, just be kind to people. If they're nice to you, be nice to them. Try to be everybody's friend, as long as you're respectful to one another. But I think Tampa's had a positive history in that as of recent. Our mayor, is extremely supportive. She's the first openly gay mayor. Great. I hope that it inspires and shows people, you can live here, you can be elected here, you can be, again, going back to that welcoming and feeling safe. There's no room for hatred and bigotry, and it's not just LGBTQ. It's people of color, people that have immigrated here. I'm a son of immigrants. Again, Tampa's always been very good to my family. My family came here. They didn't speak English. They didn't have any money. Tampa, open arms. And I know that my mother and my grandparents are alive. They would attest to that. That it's a big family. It doesn't mean we agree on everything,
Mm-hmm.
but again, they've always felt safe here to raise a family, to open a business,
Mm-hmm.
to go to school, to be just who they are without having to hide it. I know that with social media, with the political climate, people are scared and people, don't always feel safe. But I hope that Tampa's always a shining, beacon of light where, it might be rough in other places, but in Tampa, that it's a city that embraces and welcomes people with open arms.
Everyone. Yeah. When you go to see a public event, you see everyone, and it's so great to just see all the people.
Yeah, I like to see people happy and people enjoying the city. It makes me happy too.
Awesome. Okay, we have one more question from Domingo. You're known for your commitment to preserving Tampa's historic neighborhoods. How do you balance the need for development and modernization with the importance of maintaining the city's cultural and historic heritage, especially in areas like West Tampa and Seminole Heights?
So specifically West Tampa and Seminole Heights, that's part of our character. It's part of the flavor that makes Tampa, Tampa. We have to be mindful. We look at rezonings and development and all this stuff that comes before City Council on a case-by-case basis. We have to make sure that there's a balance, that we don't lose that character of what made those neighborhoods great. Development is okay, growth is okay, because people are moving here. We have to accommodate, we have to have the housing, we have to have the infrastructure. But at the same time, we can learn from urban renewal when, again, with the interstate and so many things, it was out with the old, demolish it because it's old, because we need parking, we need the interstate, we need the highways. We have to be careful and say, hey, how can we maintain the balance, maintain the character, because that's what makes a city a city. We can't say, let me show you these photos in this history book of what used to be here. I want to show you the actual buildings and neighborhoods and preserve that as best as we can. So we take it on a case-by-case basis. Developers, property owners, they're protected by law. So we can't do everything, but I think we can be vocal and strong as a city council to say, hey, we have to have that balance because we don't want to lose our history and our character.
Absolutely. I think that's super important. And those neighborhoods are historic neighborhoods that have a language that they're speaking just by being there, don't you think?
Yep.
What do you think about the Tampa Arts Council and the whole, Governor DeSantis telling us we're not getting any money this year?
I hope that, some in leadership have a change of heart, because the arts, not just as an economic driver, but as a cultural driver. The arts might be the reason somebody wants to move here and say, hey, they have an awesome art scene. We've discussed housing for artists because it's expensive to live in Tampa,
Yes,
but you want people to live in Ybor City, live in these neighborhoods, where they can express themselves, through their art, whatever that may be. But we have great museums. I mean, if it was up to me, I would build more museums. The Museum of Art is one of my favorite places. Then you have the Children's Museum. Then you have the Photography Museum that recently moved to Ybor City. Then you have the History Center. It's just like, art isn't just a painting. Art can be spoken word. It can be writing. It could be poetry. It could be
film.
Whatever. It could be film, But again, I want Tampa to be welcoming and inclusive. And it's not just, we talked about LGBTQ. It's about, art. It's about people that are trying to pursue, other things that they know, hey, Tampa's that place.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing that could happen is we lose someone to another city because we don't have what they're looking for. We're not going to be New York City.
No.
We're not going to be Hollywood. But, there's so much opportunity here. Overall, yes, it rains and it's hot, but we have good weather. It's like, why isn't film more prominent in the state of Florida?
Mm-hmm.
I know we've lost productions to Georgia, maybe because of tax incentives. People go to California because of the weather, because it's Hollywood. But it's like, so much could be done here. Like I said, Ybor City is a natural movie set.
I know you know the story about how they literally built this.
And I wanted to go see it. I'm like, Brunswick, Georgia.
Yeah.
They built a replica Ybor City and then they tore it down.
Oh, it just makes it hurts
I'm
me
like,
so
you could have just filmed it here.
Hurts-
And the thing is, in that
hurts so
film,
much.
they had dirt roads. Ybor City had brick streets in that time period. Sounds like they tried, but they still didn't get the full authenticity of Ybor. But had the state or locally had other incentives that, again, it's about dollars and cents, and we missed out. Because I have that movie, I know that movie. It was exciting when, someone's going to do an Ybor-related movie, but again, we lose opportunities when, we don't focus, especially on the arts. There you go, there's a perfect example.
Well, I'm so glad that you're on our side, fighting the good fight, especially as a filmmaker and people in the film industry. We know this story very, very well, but I don't know what can be done about that, but I'm glad that you're there helping us. And we're glad that you came to TBCN and are interested in the arts as a general subject, because that's what we do here. So I have one more question, Guido. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your time in the Tampa government or what you're going to be doing next that you're interested in?
I want to thank the citizens of Tampa for allowing me this opportunity, because we're going on year 10. I started, I was first elected in 2015 by a narrow margin, and I've been reelected since, so I'm very grateful. I know that we don't have all the answers and we can't do everything, but as a city council, I hope that we maintain a good balance between development, with protecting the neighborhoods, with making sure that Tampa is again welcoming, because we have a lot of people that are coming here, and Tampa has so many wonderful things to offer. I've been here all my life. I've never seen or felt so much excitement before. It's like every day you look at the news and there's something new. Something new is being built. Something new is coming here. And I'm glad. I'm glad that we're living in these times. And again, it's a wonderful city. I don't think I'd live anywhere else. And I hope that other people feel that way, because we really do have a lot to offer.
Yes, we do. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us on Talk to Your Government. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. If you have any questions or topic you'd like us to cover in future episodes, feel free to write us at talktoyourgovernment@tbcn.org. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay engaged, stay informed, and keep the conversation going.